Good morning, genealogy friends. Happy Friday. Just going to keep this here for a second. We're talking about Google Photos today. Last Friday, I did a little feature where I talked about using the website Conference Keeper. Man, that was a brain bubble. I talked about using Conference Keeper to stay on top of genealogy events, especially virtual ones, and also opportunities for things like grants or scholarships, contests. And I actually thought, Friday would be a good day to start featuring other sites. And today I want to talk about Google Photos, both as a website and as an app. Good morning, Deb. I'm going to try to speak a little louder and a little more clearly. I got some feedback that people are having a hard time hearing me, so sorry about that. I know I definitely slip into talking to you guys like we're just sitting here at my house having tea, and I probably need to start talking to you more like, I'm broadcasting, which is a funny thought. Okay, so talking about Google Photos, let's take a tour first, and then we're going to talk about the pros and the cons. Okay, so I've pulled it up. So the Google Photos, I live on Post-it notes. This is what the website looks like. I'm really hoping this is going to come through. So right now, every single photo that I can get my hands on that's digital is in my Google Photos account. There are years on the site here, and you can see that I have photos going all the way back to almost the year 2000. And if I scrolled through, you're going to see lots and lots of photos of my work, photos of my kids. I also have all the photos and videos that I've taken on my cell phone for the last few years. This is just my general photos library. But I can come over here to my albums, and here you're going to see, give it a second. I've divided my photos into albums. I have work images that I use for family tree notebooks. These are undivided scans. These are scans that I've done that I haven't broken down into individual photos yet. I have these are home videos. I have some photos divided by family, surname. I have photos divided by trips. I have a ton of albums on here. I also can go up to search. Well, okay. I don't know if you see, before we do search, at the top of albums, it also has people and pets, places, things. This is something that Google has put together. Google has independently gone through my photos, and it's identified all of the collages. I could pull them all up. It's sort of a funny thing. I don't know why you need all of your collages at once, but let's see how Google does. So this is not something that I've done. This is an automatic thing that Google has put together. Oh, I see. Okay, so by collages, these are photos that Google has put together, and then they've asked me, do you want to keep this collage? So this isn't something that I've done. That's why it has this little star symbol. It's a perk of using Google Photos, and I've said, yes, go ahead and keep these. I've never used any of these collages for anything, but it's kind of a fun perk. This movies over here is another Google perk that's different from videos. The videos are going to be any video file that I've uploaded. Movies, they're going to be these weird Google movies that Google puts together. Let's see. I don't know. Usually they have music and stuff. Are you going to play nicely? Those are my boys, back when my youngest was a McNugget. Okay, so that's an automatic slideshow that Google made with their own music. I had to stop it because Google pulls the photos, and so even though that probably would have all been cute photos of my son, you never know because that's an automatic thing. Okay, if we go into people and pets, now I don't know if you can see this photo says Eva. It's a terrible first photo. This one says Calvin. This one says Carly. What Google Photos is doing is they're pulling all of the photos of this person into one album. This is my son Calvin. And it's pulled all of the photos that he appears in into one album. Now, these are photos that I took this week. I didn't have to put them in Calvin's album. Google Photos recognized that on its own. And you can see up here, it's trying to learn the algorithm. Right here, it's asking me if this is the same or different person. And then I can answer. These I know are two pictures of my aunts. So I'm going to say same. And it's going to ask me, do you want to group these faces together? Sure, because they're both the same person. And then it's going to give me another one. And I don't know if you can tell, these are different people. This is my grandmother, and I have no idea who this person is, in which case I can say different. Now, you don't have to answer that for every single photo. This is Google trying to learn the algorithm. So part of the benefit of this for genealogists is that sometimes you can come down, like this is my grandmother. If I click on her photos, not only do I get all of these photos, you know, well, she's my logo, so I get some work photos, but it's also going to try to pull all of the photos where she appears, even photos where she's much older. It recognizes that that's the same person. However, I will tell you, it makes mistakes all the time. It has pulled these two photos, and it thinks that my grandmother is in these two photos, and my, you know, half Chinese grandmother is not in either of those photos. If you go down far enough, I have personally named these, that's why these have names on them. If you go down far enough, you will get photos where they're just pulling random people. For example, I have no idea who this is. If I click on that, it's going to have grouped photos together of this person, thinking that this person is significant. I don't know who that is. I don't know if all of those photos are that person. I don't think that they are. And some of the photos, you're going to have multiple groups for the same person because it doesn't recognize that they're the same people. But, you know, if you have, let's say that I've scanned a lot of old family photos, and I know I have a lot of photos of this person, but I don't know who this person is. I think this happens all the time where you see somebody, maybe you see somebody appearing in family photos over and over again, or you just scan a ton of family photos, you don't know who anybody is, and you aren't really noticing who's in them. Good morning, Pam. Okay, so let's say I've done that. When I click on, these are all messed up because I've done so much work. All right, that was a terrible example. I thought more photos of him were going to come up. Let's pick this person. And we'll have the same problem. Okay, well, down at the bottom. So let's say I only knew that like I had this person in this photo. When this groups faces, Google's actually done a good job here because I can tell you that she's in all of these photos. It's going to point out to you, wait a second, this person's showing up a lot. It's going to group all of the photos together, so you might see that they're showing up a lot with the same people. If you have somebody identified in one photo, it's going to try to pull all of the photos of that person, so then you can identify them in the other photos. I mean, it's actually a really nice tool that just comes with Google Photos automatically. And here's another one. This is my husband's aunt, and you have pictures of her when she's older and pictures of her when she's younger. It also pulled her face out of this home movie and recognized that that was her. These are mostly accurate. Pictures of her at our wedding. Lots of pictures of her at our wedding. So this is a really nice, easy, free tool. Okay, let's talk about the actual usability of Google Photos. So Google Photos is free if you have the settings. Why don't I see the settings? Okay, the settings are over here. It's going to ask you if you want to upload your photos in the original size or the high quality. I upload everything into the high quality. The high quality is great. The only reason you wouldn't want to upload everything to high quality would be if you needed all of your photos to be large enough that you wanted to basically wallpaper an entire wall with one photo. I mean, most of us, we just don't need full scans when we're doing scans, or full photos if we're taking photos with nice cameras. I have the scans and the photos saved on my computer or on hard drives in other places because I don't rely on Google Photos for all of my photo storage. But when it comes to just having photos in Google Photos, especially as backups, I'm completely fine with using this high quality storage. I have used Google storage for other things, so I have paid for a little bit of Google storage, but I don't think that it's necessary for most people to pay for it. And so that's one of the settings. Now you can, okay, I'm showing this to you on a desktop, but let's look at it on a laptop or on an iPad. I would love to show it to you on my phone, but you're on my phone, which is a whole weird meta thing. Oh, you wanted my face. Hold on. Face ID is tricky. Okay, this is the Google Photos app. How can I show this to you nicely? There we go. All right, now you see it's, again, this is just my library. It's a little bit different organization. It's also showing me these highlights, and then I can see where I was a year ago and things like that. And if you get down to the bottom and I click on library, it's going to open up all of those albums again. And sometimes they take a second to load, but you know, it's the same photos. This is, using my iPad to look at Google Photos is how I most often pull photos and put them into my notebook, because I will open a photo and then stop that, and then I can come up here to these little dots, and it gives me the options, and I can download this photo to my device, and then once it's downloaded to my device, I put it in my notebook. Now, the important thing about the iPad and the phone is that I have this set up to back up everything that I take. So any photos that I take on my iPad or my phone automatically are uploaded to Google Photos when the app is open. You can see it's trying to back up 1,000 things right now because I haven't done backup in a little while. I don't have it automatically set on my iPad. I'm trying to see where, I bet you that that's in settings actually, on my iPad settings, and I don't want to get into that right now because I'm not sure what personal information I might accidentally show. But you can set up your iPad, your iPhone, everything to upload to Google Photos for free, setting it to high quality, free unlimited storage. And you just do that by downloading the Google app. Now here's something interesting. I'm going to flip around because you've just been staring at my iPad. Okay, if you have a Google phone, a Google device, there's a chance that you already have Google Photos, a good chance, and that your photos are already being backed up to Google Photos. For a while there, and it could still be happening, I'm not sure because I don't have a Google phone, everybody who had a Google phone automatically had a Google Photos account, and all of their photos were uploaded. And people were really upset about that because people had privacy concerns about Google Photos. So one, if you have a Google photo or a Google phone and you're concerned about that, you might want to look into whether or not your Photos app is actually Google Photos and not just a folder on your phone. But talking about privacy, this is the number one thing that comes up when people have concerns about Google Photos, because it's Google and you're uploading your personal family photos, and now they're going to be on Google and you've kind of lost control of them, and that's scary. Here's my thing about it. I have no problem with it. Google Photos has a policy built in that when you upload your photos, they are private by default. That means that they're only accessible to you. Nobody else is going to be looking for them. When you upload your photos to Google Photos, somebody can't then search on Google and pull up your photos. It's not how it works. They're private. However, if you share your photos, there's a share button. I could show it to you, but I mean, basically, there's an option to share each of your photos, and it will ask you if you wanted to share it with a specific person or do you want to create a link. If you share with a specific person, it still creates a link for that photo. Anybody who has that link can then view that photo. So that's a privacy thing that I think people don't always know, that they're making any photo they share semi-public because they're giving anybody with that link access to that photo. I mean, it's limited to people who have that link, but that is something that I think people don't always recognize. But my other thing about it is that we're in a funny time. I will tell you, basically nothing is secure when it comes to your photos. Nothing's perfect. If you just keep your photos on hard drives, I don't have one, but imagine I'm holding a hard drive. That hard drive could fail. Just like if you only keep your photos on your iPad or your phone or your device and then something happens to your computer. That's the hard thing about keeping your photos on hard drives. I keep my photos on hard drives. I, once a month, will take all of my photos. I put them on hard drives, and I also upload them to Google Photos, knowing full well that something could happen to the hard drive. And that's why I want the backup to Google Photos. Now, something could happen to my Google Photos. There's always a chance when you have an outside website that they're going to crash, they're going to have some terrible breach. Google is about as secure as you're going to get. They, of course, have a ton of money. They are very, very, very motivated to keep your photos private and secure and not let anybody get to them. And so it's funny, when I was at Roots Tech, I'm not going to drop names, but there were a lot of photo storage sites that were there as exhibitors in the expo hall. And some of them had great features, and there are some that at some point I will probably feature because there are a lot of people who are doing wonderful things with photo storage and family photos, and they're going after the family history market. There was one service, I think the service was fine. I did a quick tour of it, but the service is, they have subscriptions that are sold on commission. So I had somebody who was, helping me, and she was doing a hard sell. I'm not a huge fan of the hard sale, but I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt because she was telling me the features. And in the middle of it, she told me this horror story that she claimed that she had proof and that it was backed up. And it was all about how somebody had uploaded photos to Google Photos, and then Google had turned around and used the photos in an ad. And when she told me the story, I was thinking, this doesn't sound right, but I didn't want to, interrupt her and fact check while I was standing there. And then as she kept talking, she was talking about how when you upload to Google, you're selling them or you're giving away your photos for free, and then they can do whatever they want with them, and they can sell them as stock photography, and they can do all this stuff. I didn't get into it with her, but it really rubbed me the wrong way because it's just not true. And I'm not sure how many people she told that to. And I don't know how prevalent those ideas are, floating around the internet. Google Photos is not going to take your family photos and use them as stock photography. They're just not. The amount of money they would make by reselling most people's non-professional family candids versus how many people would not use their service if they did that, it doesn't make any financial sense. They just aren't going to make money from that. They are not giving your photos to the government to do secret tracing. Again, going past the moral issue, financially that doesn't make any sense for them. And it turned out that the story she told me about the person who unwittingly had a Google Photoshop in an ad and he had never given consent, it's an urban legend, basically. It's it didn't happen. And so I thought about sending her an email later just to say, you need to stop telling people this story, but I think it was a sales pitch. Anyway, if you heard that, if that's what you're worried about, it's not going to happen. However, if somebody hacked into your Google account, if somebody somehow got your login, they are going to be able to access your photos. Google doesn't have any way of barring people who have your login information from accessing your photos or your Gmail or any Google service that you're using if you're using Google Drive. But again, that's true of every photo storage service that is online, including the one that, again, I'm not going to name, but the one that she was talking about, it's the same level of risk. If somebody has your login information for that, they're going to be able to access your photos. The only way to keep people online from accessing your photos, to make sure that nobody ever hacks you, that your username and password are never compromised, is to keep your photos locally on a computer and a hard drive. I have had enough computers and hard drives fail that it is not worth it for me to try to keep the bubble and make sure that nothing's ever online so that nobody can get to it. even if you had multiple hard drives, there's terrible, like one, no joke, I have had days where everything has just shorted out at the same time and I don't know why. Also, if there was a house fire, you'd lose all of your hard drives. You could lose it to flooding, you could, all sorts of stuff. So oh, my phone's gonna die. I need my photos to be somewhere that physically isn't where I am because I want to make sure that they are out there in case something catastrophic happens in my household. Also, honestly, I love that I can access every photo that I have no matter where I am because I have Google Photos on my phone. If I'm out and about and I'm talking to somebody about something or somebody texts me, I get texts from family members all the time. Not surprisingly because I'm like the photo family history person for our family. And people, do you have a photo of our old house? Do you have a photo from me from the 7th grade? Do you have a photo of this dog that died a million years ago? And it's really easy for me to search Google Photos, especially because I have a lot of albums divided by, these photos are from 1990 to 2000. These are from 1980 to 1990. I can just pull up that photo, download it, message it to somebody. I mean, it's great. And for somebody who does the digital genealogy that I do by making notebooks on my iPad, I love that I don't always have to have all of my photos sitting on my iPad. I can download them from Google Photos, put them into my notebook, and then if I need to free up space, I can actually then just delete that image from the iPad and it's gone, but it's still in my notebook. So basically what I'm saying is you have to make that decision for yourself. But for me, I think ease of use, the fact that my photos and videos upload to Google Photos and I don't have to think about it, means that if my phone dies and I haven't done a backup, at least those photos and videos are in Google Photos. So that's great. And I feel like there's a certain level of, yes, I'm putting this on the internet and I really hope somebody doesn't get my username and password, but it's a risk I'm willing to take for all of the benefits that I'm reaping. And I did, again, want to underscore that even if you're taking beautiful, gorgeous family photos that are incredible, they're just not going to slurp them up and sell them and put them in ads or sell them to other people. It's not a realistic worry. It would be a terrible business practice for them. But, just know that your photos are only as private as your username and password. And also if you share a link to one person. I mean, I don't think any of us are worried about, well, I won't say that. No judgment here. If you're taking the kind of photos that really need to stay private, the kind of photos that need to not be shown to other people, maybe don't share links to those photos because anybody who has that link can then see that photo. But I'm not doing that. If you're doing that, you have to make that decision on your own. Okay, I think that's all that I wanted to say about Google Photos. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions. You can always leave them in the comments later. And yeah, we've had kind of a photo theme going on this week. So I will talk more about photo types next week. But if there's anything else you want to hear me chat about, let me know. Because a lot of these are just kind of improvised the morning of. So anyway, enjoy your weekend and thanks for chatting with me.